the United States stands. And the United States, of course, is the most laissez-faire form of capitalism. So it's with the least government control and the most, with the least government restrictions, that is. And the statistics in the United States are amazing right now. The United States is first in the world in divorce, first in obesity, first in mortality, infant mortality, or maternal mortality. It's last among industrial nations. It's last in infant mortality. Among childhood poverty is 26%. It's first in the world in prison population. It's second in the world in murder rate. Russia is first. It's first in the world in armed robbery. It's 15th in the world in home ownership. Now, America's all about home ownership, right? I mean, that's what it's supposed to be about. It's all about. We're 15th. Japan is first. And many other countries are way ahead of us. We're 15th. Home ownership is an illusion right now. Wealth inequality, first in the world. Pay differentials, first in the world. The rich versus the poor. Middle class, that's another thing we're all about, is middle class. United States, 53% of the population is now rated as middle class. Japan is 90% middle class. I'm not necessarily, there's problems with Japan. I'm just saying that all these statistics are extremely interesting once you look at them. And then voter turnout, of course. We just had an election where 32% of the population voted. Australia has 95% voting. Many countries have over 85% voting. I don't know where we rank, but I'm sure we're in the bottom third of voter turnout of all countries. Now that's also a very clear expression of whether the thing is working. Okay. So, I don't know, do we have a time limit here?
We definitely have time limit because we have such a packed program. We are behind schedule. We're going to take a break after this. We're not going to take a break. What we're going to do is go till 6 o'clock with this, and then go right back to the poetry and music.
Okay,
so we have a little time to talk,
okay.
and then Arnaldo, and then we're going to have a few questions and answers.
Okay.
But the stroke of 6, we're going to have to go.
Okay. I was going to read you a little bit about growth. Since this is a bunch of poets, I decided I would read something because just to feel part of the group.
What you got for us?
Huh?
What you got for us, Jerry Mander?
Before I do that, maybe I'll wind up with the reading part. I just want to talk about the amorality part for a second, because that's a part you don't hear that discussed really. It's a systemic immorality, and it's weird because people who work in corporations are your neighbors. You know, I mean, we all know people who work in corporations. They're perfectly nice people, and yet corporations behave incredibly terribly. And what's that about? And how many people saw the movie Avatar? I didn't really love that movie, but there was one fantastically great scene in that movie. That's when the corporate guy is in the spaceship. He's been sent to look for resources. And so he's searching around the universe of different planets to find where the resources are, so he's got a whole military contingent with him. And they go to this planet, I forget the name of it now, but they go to this planet and they find, we got a planet full of resources. So he says, great. Then the military guys tell him, the only problem is there are indigenous people on that planet. And they're sitting on the resources. So the guy in the spaceship says, the corporate guy says, well, go tell them, you know, that they're going to have to move. They're going to have to move, they're going to go around to the opposite side of the planet because we need that land. So the military guy goes down, and he talks to the indigenous people, and they say, move? We're not going to move. We've been here for 10,000 years. We're fine here. We like it here. You go around the other side of the planet if you want. So the military guy comes back up to the spaceship, and he says, what do we do? What are we going to do? Should I kill them all? And then there's like a little pause in the movie where the corporate guy goes through what I call corporate schizophrenia, which is that whether you behave according to humanistic rules or you behave according to corporate rules inside that context. And he says, well, you know, our shareholders really won't like it if we kill all those people. On the other hand, they'll like it even less if we don't get those resources. So yeah, go down and kill them all. Now that was a very good description, I thought, of how less spectacular problems are faced, the dynamics that you go through. And so in the movie, they go down, they have a war, and actually they lose the war. And the Indians win. It doesn't usually happen that way, but that's the way it happens in the movie. And that's because a bunch of white people in the military turn coat and join the Indians. So it's like a white messiah thing in that one too. But I mean, you see it all the time. You see Union Carbide in India. When Exxon Valdez, released this terrible bunch of fumes that killed 3,000 people in India. And then the Exxon Valdez dumped a bunch of poison on the coast of Alaska. And in both of those cases, I thought an amazing thing happened, which was that the president of the CEO of each of those corporations, Union Carbide and Exxon, went on national television about a week after, or 3 days after this thing happened. And both of them said almost identical things. And these were only about 2 months apart, these events. They both said, I am so sorry. I apologize. We caused a terrible disaster. We really hurt people and we've hurt nature. We're really, really upset about this. And I'm gonna spend the rest of my life working to correct this. I was really shocked and impressed at those guys. Within 2 months, they were on television saying exactly the opposite thing. They were saying, it wasn't our fault. The captain of the ship fell asleep on the job and he was drunk and it was his fault. We're going to fire him and then we're going to fix up the beaches and blah, blah, blah. And Union Carbide just denied that they had culpability after that. And they're still denying it now. That still hasn't been settled. That's 20 years ago. That still hasn't been settled, that case. So what's happened there? That's what's called corporate schizophrenia. It's like you can behave as a human being with moral feelings and feelings of companionship and feeling for society and so on. And that's okay once you come out of the corporation and meet with your neighbors and go to church and so on, but it's not what operates the machine. What operates the machine is what's going to cost us money, where do we stand to get the most profits, and that's built into the system. That is a structural problem of the system. And I don't think there's any way to reform that without turning into co-ops, without completely changing the form of the structures. And I won't have time to go into a lot of different things. This co-op movement is very important, and that kind of thing, and a non-hierarchical structure for. But then, of course, you're destroying capitalism when you do that. You're just eliminating it because capitalism is dependent upon constant growth. Okay, so that's just a little bit of an illustration of the discussion about morality.